Hi guys, I'm Lindsey Serata with Sizzix, and today we're going to do a little tutorial on how to make this leaf charm necklace. But before we do, let's go over materials. Your first and most important material is going to be your machine. Now, if you have the Big Shot Jewelry Studio, you have all the platforms you need. But if you have a regular Big Shot at home, you have most of the platforms you need. You're going to want your regular platform right here, extended or non-extended, that's fine. And you're going to want a precision base plate right here for your thinlits. You're also going to want a movers and shapers shuttle for your movers and shapers dies. And then of course you want cutting pads. We can never do without our cutting pads. Now our next materials are going to be all about the jewelry. The first ones you want are going to be your leaf charm die set, and that includes 3 movers and shapers and 3 thinlit dies as embellishments. You're also going to want 2 different types of leathers. One is going to be cowhide, and that's your pink, and it's a thicker material. So remember, with movers and shapers, which are thick dies, you're going to cut thick leather, which is your cowhide, and your gold cowhide. You're going to use your thinlits with this thin lambskin material, much thinner than regular cowhide, and so thin dies, thin leather. Also, what you're going to need are some pliers and some wire cutters, 2 pairs of pliers, 1 wire cutter, and you're going to need some craft glue. I always like to use Phoebing's Leather Craft Cement and a little container for it to go in and a teeny tiny brush to use. You're also going to want some chain, a hole punch, and some jump rings. So in terms of the size of jump rings, you're going to want 6 small and 2 large. Lastly, you're going to want 1 tiny little lobster clasp. So the first thing we're going to do is cut our leather. And I've already cut our large leaf and our medium-sized leaf, but together we're going to cut the small one. So what I want to grab is my gold cowhide and my sand color lambskin. First, let's focus on the cowhide. I'm going to take my movers and shapers, and my shuttle tells us the exact sandwich we need, but let's do it together. I have my movers and shapers shuttle. I'm going to put my movers and shapers right down on there, and it's magnetic, so as you can see, it's not going to go anywhere, which is very useful. Then, what's very important to know is that I want my blade touching the top of my leather. So I'm going to turn my leather upside down, and then I'm going to top it off with a cutting pad and roll that on through. Rolls like butter. And 1 cut is just enough, even though it's very thick leather. So now I have my bottom. I need my embellishment. So I'm going to grab my thinlit and my lambskin. And now instead of a movers and shapers shuttle, I want a precision base plate. And along with your precision base plate, you always want to use a multi-purpose platform. And this again has the sandwich you need. We're going to turn it over. And this is what we're going to cut into. So one tip is that with my lambskin, I like to stretch it a little bit right before I cut it, because it will shrink after you cut it, no matter if you stretch it or not. But I want it to shrink back to its original size. So I'm going to put that down on my precision base plate. And once again, I want to cut into the top of my leather. So I'm going to put my leaf down on there and 1 cutting pad and run that through. And once again, 1 rotation is going to be enough for this. I want to pull that out, and now I have my embellishment right here. So now that our leather is all cut out, we're going to start gluing our embellishments onto our leaves. So I have my Phoebing's Leather Cement, and I'm going to take my tiny brush And remember, less is more. You don't need a lot on here, but I'm gonna turn my embellishment upside down and just coat it lightly with my glue. So we don't need to get every single little bit of this, but we wanna make sure that this is gonna stay down. So now that I have most pieces, I'm gonna turn and flip this over. Now, as you can see, it flops around there. So I'm gonna start at the top corner and work my way down. And it'll really just slide in there. You don't have to do much. Now it's perfectly centered, and I'm gonna let that dry and move on to the rest. Now, while our leather is drying, we're gonna talk about chain. Now, the length of the chain is completely up to you. Everyone has a different body. I tend to like longer necklaces. So what I've done with my chain is I made it 14 inches on each side, a total of 28 inches long. And the leaves start about mid-rib cage. So that's what we're gonna do. And it's really easy. You don't have to measure it out. All you have to do is take your chain, wrap it around your neck, and estimate. I really think that's the best way to go. So I'm gonna say I want my leaves to start right here. So I've marked it with my finger. Now I'm gonna take my wire cutters and just snip that. It's really easy. So now that I have the long part of my chain, I want 2 extra small pieces. One to connect my medium-sized leaf and one to connect my small leaf. I want a 2 1/4 length and a 1 1/2. So once again, I can estimate right here. I'm gonna snip that and get my 1 1/2 length. And now I'm gonna start with my jump rings. The first set of jump rings that I have here is a lobster clasp, a small jump ring, and a large jump ring. And when I say small and large, mine right here are about 2 millimeters and maybe 3 millimeters. That's up to you what sizes you want to use. It's whatever you're comfortable with. And the smaller you go, the more difficult it is to work with because these are very tiny materials. I'm going to hold my jump ring right here, and my cut is at the very top center. I'm going to clasp my jump ring with 1 pair of pliers on the side. So my cut is at the very edge of the pliers. I'm going to grab the other side and I'm going to twist one side forward, one side backward towards me. The reason I don't want to pull them apart is because when you try and push them back together, it's not going to keep its shape. So I go forward and backward. So now that my jump ring is open, I'm going to take one end of my 28-inch long chain and I'm going to thread that jump ring through one end. And I'm also going to thread my lobster clasp through. Whoops. Once I have my chain and my lobster clasp inside, I'm going to close it back up. Once again, 1 forward, 1 backward. Just the opposite of how we opened it. And you want to make sure that it's completely connected. So now I have my lobster clasp connected right there. I used a small jump ring, about a 2 millimeter jump ring for that. Now, I'm going to take my other end of my 28-inch chain and I'm going to connect the large jump ring to it. So I'm going to open it up. 1 forward, 1 backward. Take my empty end of my chain and connect that. And this one I'm just going to close on up. Now what I want to do, I'm going to cut my 28-inch long chain, cut it in half so it's 14 and 14, and then we're going to connect them back with a large jump ring. Now if it's easier for you to, instead of cutting it in half, just string the large jump ring through, that's fine as well. It's up to your discretion. But I'm going to open this large jump ring up and I'm going to thread both ends through that. I'm going to close that back up, and now we have our entire chain. So now that our leaves are dry, we're going to poke holes in them. I have my hole punch called a crocodile, but I like to call it a cropodilly. You can call it whatever you want. Right here, I have a large hole punch, and right here on the other side, I have a small hole punch. So I'm actually going to use the small one, and I'm going to come up to the root of my leaf and poke a hole right there. I'm going to do that with all 3 leaves. So next, what I'm going to do is attach my leaf charms. What I'm going to want is my 2 1/4 length for my medium-sized leaf, and that's going to have a jump ring at the bottom and a jump ring at the top. And then my 1 1/2 is going to have a jump ring at the bottom, connecting my leaf, and a jump ring at the top. And then my large is just going to have 1 jump ring without a chain. Now, once all of your leaves are connected to their chains and jump rings, we're ready to connect the leaves to the long chain. So what we're going to do is take that large jump ring, open it back up, and we're going to strand these leaves through it. So we're going to take the top of this string right here, strand it through. Same thing with the small. Same thing with that large. So the large is going to be connected to it at the very, very top. And now we close it back up. And there you have it, a beautiful leaf charm necklace. And how easy was that? All we had to do is take our die set, our machine, and voila! I hope you enjoyed.